Sticking to a healthy diet is so challenging when everyone around you is indulging in things like pizza and cheeseburgers and candy bars. Instead of getting down on yourself for falling off the wagon and giving in to temptation yet again, just follow the tips I've laid out in this video. You will have no problem staying on track with a whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, and sugar, chemical-free diet if you just follow along. After being vegan for the past 7 years and SOS-free for over 3 years now, I am finally in a position where I feel like my compliance is at a stable rate. So I'm no longer going back and forth with my healthful resolve. I'm no longer making any sort of exceptions when it comes to slightly processed foods or animal products. It doesn't matter what others are eating. I continue to stick to this way of life. And in order to do that, first and foremost, I had to create a solid knowledge foundation based on the goal at hand. Any kind of behavior modification is hard. We need to know why we're making this change and why it's beneficial to us. Anytime I want to change a behavior that I'm currently observing is causing an issue, I want to know 3 things. Number 1, why it's damaging to my health. Number 2, why it's undermining my happiness. And number 3, why it's detrimental to the way I want to live my life. Self-immersion in plant-based nutrition will help you to control all of the external messaging coming in from influential sources and therefore leading to a greater likelihood of success that you will comply with this lifestyle. During my transition, I was immersed in all of the literature. I am an avid reader and I absolutely fell in love with T. Colin Campbell's The China Study and Dr. Furman's Eat to Live, as well as Dr. Greger's How Not to Die and How Not to Diet. But for those times that I'm not able to read, I like to listen to podcasts like Switch for Good, The Exam Room Live, Rich Roll. These all help to keep my head in the right space and helps to remind me that there are other people that are doing this. And it reminds me why I'm doing this, why it's so beneficial to my health. Why am I not eating animal products? Why am I not eating junk in the grocery store or at a gas station or a restaurant? These are the things that we need to surround ourselves with in order to succeed. I also watched a ton of Chef AJ, still do. I absolutely love her show. All of the doctors and researchers and professionals that she brings on to explain to people why this is so helpful, not only for yourselves, but for the community and for the planet and the economy. There's really no downside to following this way of life. And that really helps to propel me in the right direction when I'm feeling, a little stressed out or a little unmotivated at times. Another YouTube channel that I fell in love with was the Real Truth About Health conference. So this is actually a free conference that's put on every year for the past 9 years, I believe. And it is just packed full of information on why this way of life is going to solve so many problems, not just with your health, but with the planet and, like I mentioned, the community and so on and so forth. Definitely worth looking into. There were some 75, 79 speakers this year. It was like a 17-day conference. So again, this is free to the public. Make sure you check it out. And there are all sorts of summits like this going on all the time. Chef AJ puts on several for weight loss in particular, but also gastro problems. And Ocean Robbins does a ton of summits. He gets all of those wonderful plant-based people together. And the Real Truth About Health conferences, like I already mentioned. So check those out. The next tip is to build easy, sustainable systems. Know what you're going to plan for your meals that week. Know where you're going to shop, where you're going to find these ingredients, and how you're going to put these ingredients into some delicious meals. What days of the week are you going shopping? How often? What's your budget like? Should you be looking online for certain items? Is that more efficient? Or have you noticed that that helps to keep you on track better when you order your groceries as opposed to going to pick them up? A huge strategy that I put into practice since following this lifestyle is to batch all my meals and prep everything ahead of time. Everything is ready to go for the week, and then you just have to pick up a little bit here and there as the days go by. For instance, I'll usually batch some more potatoes or squash or some other kind of starch throughout the week. I'll also pre-chop vegetables and fruit all throughout the days of the week. So depending on your produce consumption and how much your family loves these things, or your roommates or whoever it is that you're living with, you might have to replenish your supply more often. So this just takes some getting used to. It's a lot of trial and error until you determine exactly what volume of each product that you need to keep in your household at all times, and how often you need to go to grocery shopping as a result of those consumption rates. When it comes to sustainable systems, it's so important that you create something that's easy and efficient. Make your meals simple. You don't have to do a 3-course meal every time you sit down to eat. You don't even have to make a meal. You can just grab a potato. It's that simple. You don't have to let yourself get so overwhelmed with these ideals. So if you're super stressed out and you're having a really hard week, or you find absolutely zero time to prep your meals, just know that it's okay to grab some fruit and grab some raw vegetables and, like I said, batch a bunch of potatoes. That's perfectly fine. You're still eating a balanced meal. As long as you get, I'd say, 2 categories from 2 different plant-based food groups in each meal, that would be considered a meal. So some broccoli with a sweet potato. Perfectly nutritious. You could probably live on that. But the trick is to vary these things from day to day or from week to week. So if I make like a pound of beans, then the next time I make beans, I'll make a different type of beans. Or if I'm using a certain kind of salad green, I will make sure to change those up from week to week. Or even the seasonings or the sauces, whatever it is that you're using, just vary it. And it'll seem like a brand new meal every time with the same ingredients practically, just slightly altered. So some super easy meals to do this with are things like salads, soups, smoothies, as well as stir fries and like grain mixtures that you would use for breakfast, like oatmeal, for instance. You can make oatmeal so many different ways and still have oatmeal every day and get a slightly different nutrient profile. Without a sustainable system, you will no doubt be falling back into old routines and giving into hunger because you have nothing readily available that's healthy in your fridge. So just batch and prep all your meals ahead of time and you'll have no problem with this. That's my system and it has worked for a number of years, so I hope it works for you. The next tip is to use social support and networking. It is so difficult to do anything that everybody else seems to be doing the opposite of, let alone diet. Include your loved ones in on your journey, or at least explain to them why it's so important to you and how they can best support you through this endeavor if they're not interested in following suit. So this is more likely than not the case. People tend to be ready to change their behavior whenever they're ready, and sometimes that's never, and that's okay. But you need to respect what others' decisions are, regardless of how close they are to you and how much you care about them and how much you want to see them thrive and grow old and healthy with you. But unfortunately, sometimes we just have to let things be. So if you're the only one in your household that's trying to make this transition, it's okay. It's doable. That was my circumstance. That's still my circumstance. Well, with the exception of my 3-year-old daughter, of course. But if I hadn't personally brought her into this lifestyle, I'm sure she would be eating a diet very similarly to my husband's. But it's important that you start sharing your behavior change with other people. You start showing them exactly how consistent and reliable this new change is going to be and how important it is. And truly, month after month after month, after people see you doing this, they'll stop asking all of the interrogating questions of why you're not eating meat, why you're not eating dairy, why you're not eating chips, whatever it may be. The questions will calm down, I promise. But for the time being, you'll be perfectly equipped to answer those questions because you'll have that foundational education piece that I mentioned in the beginning. So continue your immersion in the plant-based nutrition education and you will have no problem answering any and all of people's questions and maybe helping to influence their behavior a little bit by being the example. That's secretly my goal. So be consistent when going out with friends, dining out, going on vacations, traveling, gatherings, holidays, celebrations. Put your systems into use. This is where you carry all of your own food with you from place to place to place. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I bring my own food into restaurants. I bring my own food to family gatherings. They don't care. I always bring an additional dish that I can consume as well as they can enjoy. Well, some of them. Usually it's something like a veggie tray or a fruit salad that you know anybody can enjoy to some extent at least. But the point is, I always have something on hand readily available when I'm out and about, when I'm out of my controlled little environment in my home. When you maintain this consistency across environments, this is when this behavior is really solidified. You know how to travel to another state. You know how to travel in an airplane. You know how to hold your own when you are confronted by family members, and you know how to prep everything ahead of time to make sure it's ready to go the next morning. Anytime I leave the home, I have some kind of insulated bag with me with plenty of freezer packs and an entire meal, because I'll tell myself I'm just going out to take care of one errand and I end up running 5. And then the next thing you know, you're starving, it's 3 o'clock, you need food, and there's no other option. So if you have something in your car at all times, you're perfectly fine. And you never have to stress out about it or get anxiety, because as somebody with a really high food intolerance, it's always been a little anxiety filled for me to be outside of the home for long periods of time. But now that I've practiced this so many times, it has become second nature. Some other ways to gain social support are things like plant-based support groups. I know there's a ton of Facebook groups out there, but if you don't like Facebook, that's totally fine. I don't do Facebook either. So you can do any kind of support group. I know PCRM has a great one, but there are also these wonderful YouTube communities like this one that I have absolutely fallen in love with. So please keep your comments and your wonderful tips coming my way just as much. And then there's even local vegan festivals. I'm actually going to my first one coming up here, and I'm going to film it, so I'll let you guys know how that goes. I even had one of my old clients tell me that there's this dating app called, I think it's called Green Dating, if I remember correctly, where you can go and actually find other people that are eating this way, so you can date people and not have to worry about the interrogating questions on your first date, like how awkward. Just do some research. There's always other people that are following a healthy lifestyle that you can get in touch with. The next tip is to practice. It will take time before you gain enough confidence to feel like this is a fluid, new, and easy way of life. Remind yourself, this is a skill. It takes time to master, and you can't get deterred immediately off the bat if you are attempting this lifestyle and attempting to stay on a healthy diet, and you continue giving into temptation and falling off and getting back on and falling off. You have to give yourself some grace, because just like anything, just like riding a bike or playing a violin, you need to learn the steps involved in carrying out this new mastery. Anticipate it's going to take more time and mental energy in the beginning, but after you do it over and over and over, it just becomes autopilot. It's like brushing your teeth or taking a shower. When I am prepping my meals, I will barely ever look at recipes. I just throw ingredients in because I'm so used to figuring out what tastes good with what and what ingredients I need to incorporate in order to make a balanced meal. So during this time, I get to do something fun. I mean, not that meal prepping is horrible, but let's face it, it's a little laborious. So some things I will do are listen to podcasts or watch YouTube videos that probably involve plant-based nutrition. So it's really easy to maintain this lifestyle after you have practiced it time and time and time again until you get to a point where you are just on autopilot. It's also helpful to build a repertoire of about 10 to 15 easy go-to recipes. So this is very typical for anybody on any diet, whether you eat a carnivore diet, a keto diet, a Mediterranean diet, whatever your pleasure. Most people tend to have 10 to 15 regular meals. And this varies from person to person. Personally, I have 10 to 15 go-tos, but I probably only use about 5 of them on any monthly basis. So this doesn't take a ton of effort. And there are so many delicious recipes online and in books and at your disposal these days that it will no doubt develop at least 15 very shortly. Along with this, it's really helpful to find your favorite influencers that kind of show you their way of carrying out this lifestyle and how to cook the recipes and how to meal prep and how to shop. And just watching other people master this skill, it really helps you to put your systems into place and develop your own way of doing things. Personally, I was eating Chef AJ's vegetables for breakfast when I first started this way of life. I just thought that was so intriguing, and it totally changed my mindset around meal planning and what breakfast looks like or has to look like. It really broadened my horizons. But just Chef AJ in general is wonderful, and any of her demos are always going to be very helpful. But if you want something more formal, there are always plenty of cooking classes, whether they're online or in person. Most tend to be virtual these days thanks to COVID, but some great ones are like Chef Ramsay's Bravo's cooking class. The last time I checked, it was like $40. So correct me if I'm wrong, because it may have updated since then. But there's a Forks Over Knives cooking class that I've heard good things about as well, and that one's about 200 something. Again, don't quote me. You can research these for yourselves, but definitely look into a cooking class if that's something that would be up your alley. If it would help you to, sustain this lifestyle long term. My last tip, if you get through all of these other steps and you feel that some additional support is needed, make sure you check out professional coaching. I currently have a few openings in my 90-day nutrition optimization program for those of you that feel some accountability and additional support is warranted. So all you have to do is click the link in the description box below and you can schedule a session with me. It's about 45 minutes and it's completely free. So there's absolutely no reason not to do it if you are at all inclined to needing this additional support. So we can get to the bottom of what's going on with this yo-yoing back and forth, falling off the wagon, getting back on the wagon, and giving into all these temptations and feeling crappy about yourself and feeling like there's something wrong with you or that you're somehow dysfunctional. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. It is our environment. We are not designed for this problem, and it is a huge problem that very little people are going to be able to solve on their own. So, like I said, I'm very passionate about this lifestyle and about helping people to do just that. So if you need that help, make sure you click the link and we'll have a little chat. All right, guys. So there's 5 things you can take away from this video. Number 1, develop a solid foundation of knowledge around the behavior that you're trying to change. Number 2, build sustainable, easy systems. The third one is incorporate more social support and networking into this plan. Number 4 is practice, practice, practice. And number 5 is find some additional professional coaching if you feel that is warranted. If not myself, there's plenty of others out there that you might feel like you resonate better with. So whoever it may be, whoever helps you to maintain this lifestyle, that's what's important to me. So make sure you reach out if you feel that I could do that for you. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope this was helpful.